Okay, so teeth. Teeth help with the ingestion and mechanical digestion of the food we eat. The meaning of ingestion is taking in food. Teeth can be used to bite off pieces of food. They then chop, crush, or grind them into smaller pieces. This gives the food a larger surface area, which makes it easier for enzymes to work on the food in the digestive system. Let me make you understand why does increasing surface area helps digesting more. Say this and this. Here, the surface area to volume ratio is really low, and here the surface area to volume ratio is high. So many more enzyme can work in this scenario, and lower amount of enzyme can work in this scenario. Okay, so higher the surface area to volume ratio, the more the chemical rate of reaction, because the more chances of collision and more chances of enzyme working on it. You learn it in your chemistry O levels, your chapter of kinetics. Okay. It also helps soluble parts of the food to dissolve. There are soluble parts of the food, and it also helps them to dissolve. Since the pieces will be smaller, it will be easier to be dissolved. As this is a part of chemistry, much more polar water molecules, the oxygen and hydrogen, can be attached to them. But that chemistry part is not needed in your O levels, but you should know it, or you will know it in your chemistry. The structure of a tooth is shown in figure 7.1. The part of a tooth which is embedded in the gum is called the root. The part which can be seen is the crown. The crown is covered with enamel. Enamel is the hardest substance made by animals. It is very difficult to break or chip it. However, it can be dissolved by acids. Bacteria feed on sweet foods left on teeth. This makes acid which dissolve the enamel and decay sets in. Nothing to make you understand, just that enamel is the hardest part made by an animal, and the bacteria, if there are foods, the bacteria will respire the food and produce acid as a byproduct, and this acid is going to dissolve the enamel. Under the enamel is a layer of dentin, which is rather like a bone. Dentin is quite hard but not as hard as enamel. It has channels in it which contains living cytoplasm. We know what is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the watery fluid which contains the organelles, the foods and the nutrients, waste products. Okay, so in the middle of the tooth is the pulp cavity. It contains nerves and blood vessels. This supply the cytoplasm in the dentin with food and oxygen. You know that blood vessels supply food and oxygen. They supply food and oxygen to the cell by the process of diffusion, active diffusion, also passive diffusion. Active transport and passive diffusion. You will know about active transport and passive diffusion deeply in your A levels. So think, just to say that active transport is the process of moving substances from a lower potential area to a higher potential area by using energy, because we are going against the concentration gradient. And passive diffusion is the process of movement of substances from an area of higher potential to an area of lower potential down the potential gradient, and so no energy is needed for passive diffusion. But for active transport, energy is needed. The root of the tooth is covered with cement. This is fibers running out of it. These attach the tooth to the jawbone but allow it to move slightly when biting or chewing. So you need to learn by heart the diagram, so that if there are any diagram you can identify which is what. Okay, so types of teeth. Most mammals have 4 kinds of teeth. Incisors are the sharp edge, chisel-shaped teeth at the front of the mouth. They are used for biting off pieces of food. Canines are more pointed teeth at either side of the incisors. Premolars and molars are the large teeth toward the back of the mouth, and they are used for chewing food in humans. The ones right at the back are sometimes called wisdom teeth. They do not grow until much later in the person's development than the others. So from this diagram, the skull one, you need to identify which teeth is what, and also from figure number 7.13 you need to identify which diagram represents which types of teeth. Okay, nothing to make you understand here. Mammals also differ from other mammals in having two sets of teeth. The first set is called milk teeth or deciduous teeth. In humans, it starts to grow through the gum, one or two at a time. When child is about 5 months old, by the age of 24 to 30 months, most children have set of 20 teeth. You don't have to learn by heart this, but try to remember this. So try to read them for longer amounts of repetitions. And we know that we humans, first of all, we have milk teeth, and then we have our permanent teeth. Okay, we know this. This is common sense. This first set of teeth begins to fall out when child is about 7 years old. 20 teeth to replace the ones which fall out, plus 12 new teeth make up the complete set of permanent teeth. Okay, why don't you just learn by heart these two pairs? Okay, if in your question comes that describe how humans first have milk teeth and then permanent teeth, and also with the numbers, so that you can write it. So memorize this. There are 32 altogether. Most people have their permanent teeth by about 17 years of age. Nothing to make you understand, you just learn by heart. These are the datas. Okay. Dental decay. Tooth decay and gum disease are common problems. Both are caused by bacteria. Tooth disease and gum disease. Okay. We know what is a tooth and we know what is a gum from the diagram. From the diagram 7.1. You have large number of bacteria living in your mouth, most of which are harmless. However, some of these bacteria altogether substance from your saliva form a sticky film over your teeth, especially next to the gums and in between the teeth. This is called a plaque. So here in diagram 7.14 we can see that how plaques are formed, and this is nothing to make you understand, just the substances from your saliva and the bacteria together form the sticky film over your teeth. We know what is a film. Film is a layer. Okay, a layer. This is called a plaque. Plaque is often soft and easy to remove at first, but if it's left, it hardens to form tartar, which cannot be removed by brushing. So tartar is like a more advanced form of plaque, and that is the more matured form of plaque, which cannot be removed, and it is really hard. And that is when you need filling. But filling, I mean teeth filling. You need to fill up your teeth to the doctor, but this is for you to learn by heart. Now gum disease, that was like a tooth disease, and now for the gum disease, if plaque is not removed, the bacteria in it may infect the gums. The gum swell, become inflamed, and may bleed when you brush your teeth. So swell means to enlarge in size, and inflamed means to strengthen. That is, the swelling strengthens. This is usually painless, but if the bacteria are allowed to spread, they may work down around the root of the teeth. The tooth becomes loose and needs removing. Nothing to make you understand. So like if the bacteria spreads and goes to your root of the teeth, then the teeth moves and it needs removing. It's a normal data. Okay, now tooth decay. If sugar is left on the teeth, bacteria in the plaque will feed on it. They use it in respiration, changing it into acid. The acid gradually dissolves the enamel, covering the tooth, and works its way in the dentin. Dentin is dissolved more rapidly than the enamel. If nothing is done about it, the tooth will eventually have to be taken out. So first of all, the saliva and bacteria forms a sticky film called plaque. If the plaque is not removed, it hardens and forms into tartar. So, and then like the tartar contains the bacteria. So if the bacteria works through your gum to your roots, then the tooth needs to be removed. And also the bacteria on the teeth will, if there are sugar molecules, and if you do not brush your teeth, so if there are sugar molecules, the bacteria will respire on the food, they will respire for their energy, but a byproduct will be produced which is acidic, and thus the acid will dissolve your enamel and also then your dentate, and if nothing is done about it, your tooth needs to be removed. Okay, that's the sequence, but you need to learn by heart. Okay, so there are several easy things which you can do to keep your teeth and gums healthy and free from pain. You need to learn by heart these points. Number 1, don't eat too much sugar. If you never eat any sugar, you will not have tooth decay, but nearly everyone enjoys sweet food, and if you are careful, you can still eat them without damaging your teeth. The rule is to eat sweet things only once or twice a day, preferably with your meals. The worst thing you can do is to suck or chew sweet things all day long. And don't forget that many drinks contains a lot of sugar. So no sugar, no bacteria can respire and produce acids. Use a fluoride toothpaste regularly. Fluoride makes your teeth more resistant to decay. Drinking water which contains fluoride or brushing teeth with a fluoride toothpaste makes it much less likely that you will have to have teeth filled or extracted. Regular and thorough brushing also helps to remove plaque, which will prevent gum disease and reduce decay. So why fluoride? Fluoride kills the bacteria. So no bacteria, no respiration, no acids will be formed. That's logical, right? Make regular visits to the dentist. Regular dental checkups will make sure that any gum disease or tooth decay is stopped before it really gets a hold.